Welcome to our second episode of Getting All That You Deserve Out of Yourself. Well, excuse me, our third episode. And I'm excited about being able to bring you these complimentary sort of like tidbits on moving you in the direction of getting all that you deserve out of yourself. Because I know, like I told you before in our last time talking, that I lived most of my life with people being able to get more out of me than I was able to get out of me. I saw myself being willing to go above and beyond for everyone else, but for some reason, I wasn't willing to go above and beyond for myself. Listen, I'm a lot like you in ways that I struggle with things just like you struggle with things. And I've come from humble beginnings like you've come from humble beginnings. And there are days I wake up and I'm not so positive. But what the thing is I know what to do. I know there are certain laws and stuff that I practice and follow that help me to get right in sync with living my day the way I want my day, because I know that I have the power to create my day. For so long, coming up in the way I came up, I was raised in a small rural town called Abbeville, Louisiana. Shout out to all my Abbevilleans out there. But I came up having a very limited view, like so many people I grew up around had a very limited view on life. But I had a great big hope and I had dreams of becoming something and making something out of myself and gone beyond where a lot of the people around me had left off. And I feel like people, the ones that come before us, they take it as far as they can go and then hand the baton off to us so that we can go further. But in order for us to go further, we have to be brave enough to believe something different. And I was one of those ones who was brave enough to believe something different, because it only takes one different belief, believe it or not, to bring about a whole plethora of new possibilities in your life. And so it was because I had the courage to believe something different. Not necessarily something that goes against everything that I had believed before, but something that brings it to the next level, that raised it to the next level, that challenged me to be bigger than I would have been if I would have believed the same thing everyone else did. And so I'm here to do today is to share with you what I feel like is the third thing in your step to getting all that you deserve out of yourself. And that is being able to truly distinguish the voice of your heart from the voice of your ego. And I talked to you before about how the ego is really how the world defines you, how you're trying to live up to what other people think you should be and are supposed to be, and how we get caught up in that. And I know for years I was caught up in trying to please people, caught up in trying to get people to like me, caught up in not trying to make mistakes. And it's kind of hard. It's very difficult to live a life trying not to make mistakes, because you're going to make mistakes. It's very difficult to live a life trying not to hurt anybody, because that means that you're going to stop being your true self or stop speaking your truth because you're worried about hurting people's feelings, when the reality is you really don't know what people's feelings are anyway. So I spent all that time doing those things, and those things distracted me from being able to be focused on doing what was in my heart. Now, all of us hear the voice of our heart speaking all the time. We just ignore it because the voice of our heart does not speak loud. It does not shout. It does not seek to get us to be afraid of things. It's always talking calm. And the reason why the voice of your heart is calm is because it's ancient. Your voice knows your real age, and your real age is that we have been here forever. Think about the human being in this way. We are mortal and immortal at the same time. In fact, but there's more to us that is immortal than there is the mortal. So there is our body, which is us, but then there is our spirit and our mind, which are immortal things. There are intangible things that have no beginning and no ending. And when we learn to tap into that, or to grow that part of ourselves, we start growing the power of our immortality, which means we tap into God's self. Now, most of us, I know the way I was raised in the church, and then I became a Muslim, and I started going to the temple. I became a minister in the temple. And, these are concepts that are not necessarily that go in line with the teachings I received from both. But the reality is, if we are part immortal and part mortal, then that means that part of us that is immortal is spirit, is God, is God's self. And so we have God's self within us, but we have not been taught how to grow it, how to move off of it. And that is centered in our truth. So we have truth that we often compromise on a regular basis because of the five things I talked to you about last time. So right quick, here are things that that your heart does not, the voice of your heart does not participate in. The voice of your heart does not use intimidation. It does not seek to scare you into doing things. It does not seek to use fear. It is not influenced by time. In other words, the voice of your heart is never in a hurry. It knows that you've been here for forever. It knows exactly what the path is and what the result is. You ever heard the statement, people make it all the time, I should have followed my first mind. You ever heard of that? Well, when we say we should have followed our first mind, what we're saying is our first mind really is our heart. That's our first mind. And every time you say you should have followed, it means that you ignored your heart and didn't follow it. Case in point, let me give you an example. I was living in New Orleans, actually in Metairie, outskirts of New Orleans, and it stormed that day. I mean, stormed that the night prior to me waking up in the morning, so it's flooded everywhere. But I was still intended on going to work. So I got up in the morning. When I got up out of bed, my voice, the voice of my heart, says, lay back down and go to sleep. Well, my ego was thinking about what people think about me if I don't show up at work, and I got to do a good job. I got to make a good impression. And so my ego talked me into getting into the car, and I drove 2 blocks away and came up with 4 flat tires from trying to drive through the flood. And the only thing I could remember was my heart saying to me, I told you to stay in bed. Now, think about how different our life would be if we were obedient to the voice of our heart. See, most of us are obedient to the voices of the world, but we're not obedient to the voice of our heart. And so we don't understand the power that comes with following our heart. But even though, like the Bible tells us obedience is better than sacrifice. But most of us live a life of sacrifice. Matter of fact, we brag about all the sacrificing we do, not understanding that in now bragging about all the sacrificing we're doing, we are actually saying we have been obedient for we've been disobedient for a very long time. Every time you brag about sacrificing, you are bragging about being disobedient. You're saying that you are hard-headed, rockhead who still has not learned to follow his or her own first mind. So all of this week, this is what I want you to do. I want you to listen for your first mind. Listen for the voice of your heart, knowing that it's not pushing fear, it's not in a hurry, it's not putting you down. It is always on your side. Listen for that voice, and when you hear it, follow it. When you hear it, I want you to follow your heart, follow your first mind, and be able to say the opposite. Be able to say, boy, I'm so glad I followed my first mind, because that's your heart. And your heart is committed totally only to you. That's what makes your heart, the voice of your heart, so significant. See, your ego is not necessarily committed to you. The voices in your head come from the world. They are not you. They are voices that you picked up from other people and things in the world that are always telling you what to do, which are an extension of your ego. But the voice of your heart is exclusively concerned with you. Just like your heart does not pump or cannot pump blood for anyone else but you, your heart is only concerned with you because it knows that if you are fulfilled, then those around you will be influenced positively by your fulfillment and your joy. So your heart is always interested in that. And all this week, we want to focus our attention on following our first mind. Now, you may say, okay, what kind of coaching advice is this? This is some powerful coaching advice, but it's spiritual. And it's getting you to understand that there's something greater inside of you than outside of you. You know, the church always says it all the time. There's something greater inside of you. But if you're not going to follow what the greater is inside of you, which is coming from your heart, then why even talk about it? You know, it's like I said, I'm a lot like you. I've lived a large portion of my life being disobedient and had to make a lot of sacrifices. But now I'm not living in sacrifice. I'm living in the realm of obedience. And in the realm of obedience, there's nothing but pleasure. There's paradise in the realm of obedience. And I'm asking you to learn how to be obedient to your first mind. All right. So my name is Berwick Madi Davenport. I want to thank you for listening and stay tuned for week 4. We're going to continue this journey. And like I said, I'll give you tidbits, and I hope that you apply some of the things that I'm sharing with you because it can change your life. If you believe what I'm saying, you are a lucky woman or man. If you don't, no love lost. I appreciate you still the same. Take care and God bless.